collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
Coming up this week, Strovolos Municipality extends its free parking scheme for hybrid and electric vehicles.
There is a permit for every 3 years, and now we're going to renew this policy for further 3 years.
We get a fascinating insight into the old Cyprus railway.
The extension to Evrikou was never really a logical extension. It was built for the British because they had the government move to the foothills of the mountains during the hot season in the summer, and they built the extension to let people travel up as far as possible. But it was never viable, it was never economic, so they closed that one.
And a message of hope by the UN Secretary-General's Special Representative in Cyprus on United Nations Day.
While not signifying a return to fully fledged negotiations, this is a significant step by the leaders to keep the dialogue open and to talk about issues that are of importance to both communities, such as the possibility of opening the crossings that have been discussed since 2015.
The Strovolos Municipality announced recently that it's extending its free parking for electric and hybrid cars. We're joined by the Mayor of Strovolos, Andreas Charalambous, to tell us how this has been taken up since it was first put into place, and indeed how much longer it's going to go on for. So when did you decide originally that you should encourage the use of hybrid and electric vehicles by offering free parking?
It was first put in place, if I'm not mistaken, in 2010. First by the municipality of Strovolos, and then other municipalities followed. There is a permit for every 3 years, and now we're going to renew this policy for further 3 years. We are glad to see that the number of especially hybrid cars and electric recently, but mainly hybrid cars, is increasing year by year. I think we have something less than 300 car owners with the permit, and we are doing this in order to encourage more people to have hybrid and electric cars, which is a new trend in all over the world, and we hope this will come in our country soon.
To the people that you've spoken to, the drivers who have come and got their permits, did they say that this was an encouragement to them?
Of course, people are very pleased with this policy. It's not just a matter of some euros, but it's a matter of making our citizens feel that our municipality is encouraging the use of these kinds of cars, which we hope the numbers will increase in the years to come.
And of course we've got the Transport Ministry introducing new regulations. I think at the moment they're up for discussion about cleaner air and also incentives for the new Euro 6 regulations and again hybrids and electric vehicles. So do you think there'll be a much bigger take-up?
I think yes. I think year by year there will be a bigger take-up, yes. And of course, it's not just a Cyprus trend. It must be a global trend. And what we are reading is that by 2030, the majority of cars in the Eurozone and in all the civilized world will be electric cars and hybrid cars.
The only problem we've got in Cyprus is the lack of infrastructure and charging points.
There is a lack of infrastructure, yes. So we are trying to increase the number of electric charging stations in order to make it easier for people. Of course, there's another problem now that the prices of the cars are still high, so this prevents a number of citizens to do that.
So it should be really the government to encourage with some tax reductions.
Exactly, the government, and I think the Ministry of Transport is going towards this direction to give incentives to people, especially tax incentives, in order for people to prefer these kinds of cars, which is so beneficial for the society and especially for the environment.
Well, and let's talk a bit about the environment and the clean air. You're lucky that in Strovolos you've got a lot of trees. You're running along the Eos riverbed, and it's got some lovely park areas. But do you think that the people in Strovolos, your citizens as it were, are concerned about the quality of air in Cyprus?
Of course they are concerned. We are happy in Strovolos to have over 300 green areas. We have 65 organized parks, and we have more than 300 green areas. So we are happy to say that in Strovolos we have a high percentage of green. We have the Pedieos River, we have the Acropolis Municipal Park, the Agios Dimitrios Municipal Park. So we are happy to have 3 of the 4 main parks of Nicosia to be in Strovolos. So we see that our citizens, and the smaller parks that our citizens are using, we are happy for that. People are enjoying the parks.
So it seems that the people in Strovolos are valuing a nice environment, a clean environment, a healthy environment. As mayor, what else can you do to promote those values?
Unfortunately, or this is a situation in Nicosia anyway, it's not a matter of choice, most of the circulation is coming through Strovolos. Or I think 7 of the 9 most traffic areas of Nicosia come through Strovolos. So this is a major problem that there is 1-2 ways how you can solve this. The first one is the one that we have just discussed. The implementation of incentives in order to have more people buying hybrid and electric cars. Also, what is also of great importance is for the government, it's a matter of government of course, and we can assist in whatever way to implement the use of tram.
But they've studied that for the last 20 years, and they've never agreed even on the buses, because all the various municipalities have to agree together and they never do.
It's not a matter of municipality. It's a matter of central planning of the government. I know that the Department of Sustainable Mobility, the Department of the Ministry of Transport, has just finished a study, a survey on the use of tram, and I know that the government and the minister, the new Minister of Transport, is taking very, very seriously. But this is the only way to solve the problem in Nicosia.
Well, it's not. It would take a huge amount of infrastructure. Why don't they just bring in electric or biogas buses? They've got the bus routes. They need to streamline them around the outside of Nicosia.
It's not an easy project. Also, the use of tram must be accompanied by the extensive use of buses also, because the one complements the other. You just can't have trams or buses. You need both. And we were discussing this recently with the rector of the University of Cyprus, that this is the only solution, the big solution. There are many things to do, but the big solution in order to solve the traffic problem of Nicosia, which is increasing day by day, is increasing. And now we have, in the recent days, we have seen that not just in school hours in the morning, but also in the afternoon, the noon, you see too many cars traveling around. You have to do something. Unfortunately, the use of bus is not in our mentality. It's not easy.
How do we change that?
We are trying to change it, but the most important, I think, is the use of trams. The use of tram will help the problem. It's much easier for someone. It's not a matter of wishes, it's a matter of facts. People feel much more comfortable using the tram, and it's much more convenient. The investment, it's something around 300 to 400 million, which will be of great importance for the city. With this way, the face of the city will change. This is what must be done.
All right, let's go back to where we started with the electric cars. You're encouraging people, they can charge them for free in Strovolos.
Yes.
And how do they go about getting their licence? You need to have a licence, don't you?
Yes,
I know that you can do it online, I think, at your
They can come
website.
here in our offices to do that, but more conveniently, they can do it online. If someone visits the website of the municipality, strovolos.org.cy, they can find the special link where they can have the license. What also must be done is a proposal by the Green Party in order to have a common permit in all municipalities of Cyprus. Unfortunately now, many municipalities issue this permit. Unfortunately, each municipality issues its own permit.
Well, that's ridiculous, isn't
It
it? I mean,
ridiculous.
you're saying that if I get a permit with you in Strovolos,
Yes,
I have to go and get a separate one from Nicosia?
If you go to Nicosia, not Paphos. If you go to Nicosia, you need another one. This is ridiculous. You're right. So what we will have the initiative now is something that we have discussed.
But you have the Union of Municipalities. Why can't you just agree that there's a simple central place?
There were some restraints which I believe they are not important. We have to find a way. This is something that I have discussed very recently with the president of the Green Party because they have proposed it in the past. We will take the initiative in order to have a common pass, not just for Nicosia, but even if you go to Polis Chrysochous in Paphos, you should have a common and use it everywhere. It's very logical. It's something that we have in mind and we will try to implement it.
That's great news coming from Andreas Charalambous, the mayor of Strovolos, which is one of the municipalities in Cyprus that offers you, if you drive a hybrid or an electric car, free charging, free parking, and encourages the use for cleaner air. For nearly 50 years from 1905, the Cyprus Government Railway, or CGR as it was known, served the people of Cyprus. It took them from one end of the island to the other faster than ever before. Memories of the Cyprus Railway is a celebration of that time. It brings together the recollections of people who travelled on and lived near the CGR. It's part of a documentary series which will run to 10 episodes, The Forgotten Trains of Cyprus. And joining us on the programme this week are the director and producer of the film, Memories of the Cyprus Railway, Anastasia Charalambous Barnfather, and Keith Barnfather. Anastasia, start off, if you will, by telling us how you came to hear about the Cyprus Railway, because I know those who have heard about it are pretty passionate about it, but a lot of people don't even know it ever existed.
Well, I was walking down at the pier in Limassol with my father, and there were tracks there going towards the port. So as we were walking along, we started talking, and he told me stories about the tracks being at the port and taking luggage onto the ships. And then we got onto the subject about the railway, and he told me a couple of stories, and I became so interested and passionate that I really wanted to know more. So I started researching, and I started the story of the history and where it started from, and I was just hooked. I was so excited. I had to make it and show people what the railway was all about and how it evolved.
So tell us, how did it evolve? I mean, it was the British originally, I think, who set it up. They love their trains, don't they, the Brits?
Well, it started in 1904. The British brought the trains over, the locomotives, the steam trains, and it finished in 1951 with the last trip ending in December. And it was just, everybody was so excited about the railway. Everyone wanted to travel. People bring their goods and sell goods down to Nicosia. It was just wonderful.
So where did it run from and to? Because at one point I think there was also a link between Nicosia and Famagusta.
It started in Famagusta, down to Nicosia, and then on to Morphou, and ended at Evrichou. But then the line closed in 1931, so then it only ran up to Morphou.
But who was using it? Because it was also, as well as passengers, I think, used to transport goods. I mean, there weren't many cars around in those days. People relied on donkeys. Keith, let's bring you in here. You produced the film.
Yes.
And you, too, have studied the history. So take us a little bit into this idea that it wasn't just people that travelled. It was used, instead of donkeys, to transport goods. I presume it was good for the economy.
As you know, with colonialism, the British took railways everywhere in the empire, and the railway here was intended, as well as taking travelling and paying passengers, it was equally important to move goods from the centre of Cyprus to the new port at Famagusta. So most trains were composite trains. They carried passengers and goods.
And what about the Morphou connection?
Well, the main importance of the railway was to carry goods either east or west, but mainly west to east to the port. So there was a lot of product from the mines was also taken that in that route at the beginning. The extension to Evriku was never really a logical extension. It was built for the British because they had the government move to the foothills of the mountains during the hot season in the summer, and they built the extension to let people travel up as far as possible, but it was never viable, it was never economic, so they closed that one quite quickly.
And I presume that the advent of the automobile was really the death knell, was it, for the railway? Why did it close down?
There came a point where, because during World War II, I mean, we interviewed one of the soldiers, a couple of soldiers actually, who served during the war and afterwards, who remember it quite clearly. But after the war, the railway had run down so much that the investment required for new trains, new passenger carriages, new railway was so great, it was cheaper for the colonial government to basically scrap it and build roads.
So, that was the end of the railway, but you've spoken during this, and we should say series of documentaries, to a lot of people who either remember it, usually with fondness. What did they tell you when you were filming?
I interviewed many people who remember the railway and also travelled on the railway. We even went to Athens and interviewed a clerk who worked in the station, and he had some wonderful memories. We also interviewed an auntie of mine who travelled on the railway when she was 6 years old, and that is really irreplaceable to tell people about it.
And what about getting the actual visuals for the film? I mean, you're the producer, Keith. How do you go about finding the material to create a film? I presume you had to rely a lot on photographs. I know there's a museum now about the railway, so I presume that was useful for you in terms of visuals for the documentary. But you can't film the railway anymore. Are there any old cinematography records that you could chop in? Were you allowed to?
It's very perceptive of you. You obviously understand the medium quite well. One of the great challenges for any producer or any director, in Anastasia's case, is to how do you illustrate what you want to say if it's in the past. We were lucky for three reasons. We had a large number of photographs that we would manage to help through the Lakey Bank and through a very famous British photographer called Hugh Ballantyne, who was in Cyprus when the railway closed, and he took a huge number of high-quality negative film of the railway, and we've been lucky enough to have all of those photographs to use. We managed to find two pieces of film of the actual railway. One is reasonably well known, which was already here, which is in the archive at Rick, but we also found a film shot by somebody in the 1940s and actually shows a station with a locomotive stopping at the station and goods being loaded and unloaded and people buying food through the windows of the coaches, which is absolutely priceless. The other lucky thing for us was the author of the book about the railways of Cyprus, Mike Radford, introduced us to Welsh Pool Railway and also introduced us to the Festiniog Railway in Britain, and they both allowed us to film material of their railways, which are pretty similar to the way that this railway used to look, to give us recreations. And Anastasia also actually recreated a lot of shots of people taking food from windows of locomotives.
So whenever I interviewed anybody who had a story to tell and it was really interesting, I would start thinking, how will I illustrate that? So we started storyboarding and thinking, well, we need to get some actors or show the steam locomotives from Festiniog. And that's how we created like a little drama, which became really interesting and exciting to do as well.
So the first part of the documentary has been seen. How many episodes are there? Is it going out on TV? Or what's going to happen to it?
We are in the editing stage of the 10 episodes. So we're trying to get funding to finish all that.
One of our problems is, although we're a professional production company based in the UK, but we also work here. We're actually filming what's going on at Apostolos Andreas at the moment, the renovations there, which is another wonderful project. The problem for us is obviously as a professional production company, we have to cover our expenses as we go.
Post-production is always a problem, isn't it?
Always the problem, yes. Now filming is, because we own all our own kit, has not been a problem. We've funded everything ourselves. Now we've taken probably about 6 or 7 years to do all the interviews, do all the filming of the locomotives, to go around the route of the railway here. Our big problem now is the ending of the post-production is graphics, music, voiceover, dubbing, and these things we have to pay for, and we just don't have the turnover within the company to be able to do that. And 10 episodes in Cyprus for a TV series is very rare for a documentary series. Even Rick don't do that. You know, they have their ongoing current affairs programs, but they don't make long documentary series. So we're looking for sponsorship. I mean, that's the truth of it.
And the Ministry of Education and Culture, you mentioned Rick, where's it going to come from?
Well, normally in this situation, you're looking for private sponsorship from companies who can see a value in what we're trying to do. We are now touting around, begging people if they can help.
Crowdfunding?
Yes, we could try that. It isn't something we've done before. We're hoping that we can find sponsors in Cyprus who can see the value of having their names attached to such a prestigious series, which will be shown on television here, probably television worldwide, and certainly be available for festivals and for DVD release. So it's a prestigious project. Oh, and you were asking about the museum at Evriku. It was funny that the Department of Antiquities were just in the process of considering doing this when we were filming the series. So we've actually added on 2 episodes to the original 8 to make it 10 episodes, and we've filmed the whole of the renovation work at Evriku and the opening of the museum. So it's a lovely complement to the series to then be able to show the museum and promote the museum as well.
I'm also in the process of producing a book about memories of the railway, people who travelled and worked or who remember anything. So we're asking people to get in touch with us, and we can put all those memories in a lovely book which will be available sometime next year.
And presumably not just memories but also photographs and stuff like that. How do they get in touch?
They can contact us by email, inquiries at realtimepictures.co.uk.
And I think that's REEL time, real-time pictures.
That's correct. Or by telephone 97760047, or through our website, Memories of Cyprus Railways, through the Facebook page.
Okay, well that's easy enough. So if you've got pictures somewhere in the loft, or memories, if you go that far back, of the railways in Cyprus, do get in touch with Anastasia, Charalambous Barnfather or Keith Barnfather, and they'll get the book out next year, and hopefully we'll have the documentary as well before very long. The UN Secretary-General's Special Representative in Cyprus and head of UNFICYP, Elizabeth Spehar, hosted a reception at the Lidra Palace Hotel in the buffer zone last week to mark United Nations Day. And this is what she had to say.
As Secretary-General Guterres said, in honour of this year's United Nations Day, let us reaffirm our commitment to repair broken trust, to heal our planet, to leave no one behind, to uphold dignity for one and all as United Nations. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my 3rd UN Day as a Secretary-General Special Representative in Cyprus and head of UNFICYP, and I'd like to believe, as the saying goes, that the 3rd time is a charm. At this point, we're witnessing once again a critical moment in the Cyprus peace process. No negotiations have taken place for more than 1 year, a situation that's diminished the hopes for a prompt resumption of talks in both communities. In his latest report, following the recent round of UN consultations with the parties, the Secretary-General has nonetheless concluded that prospects for a comprehensive solution remain alive. The days and weeks ahead will be crucial, as the United Nations will continue to engage in discussions with the sides in order to gauge the possibilities and modalities for a return to meaningful, results-oriented talks. In this climate, it's encouraging that the leaders have agreed to meet under UN auspices this coming Friday, 26th of October. While not signifying a return to fully fledged negotiations, This is a significant step by the leaders to keep the dialogue open and to talk about issues that are of importance to both communities, such as the possibility of opening the crossings that have been discussed since 2015. As the Secretary-General has repeatedly noted in his reports, while the leaders have the overarching responsibility for the talks, all Cypriots, Cypriot civil society, including many of you here tonight, also have a role and can provide real impetus for a renewal of a successful process. It's therefore my hope that the leaders will receive your support and encouragement in the days and weeks ahead, as you all have a stake in the future of this island. Ladies and gentlemen, this takes me to my next point. As you would have noticed from some of the images at the entrance to the Ledra Palace when you were coming in, we have themed our 2018 United Nations Day celebration on youth. This is also, of course, why I'm speaking to you this evening. The importance of youth in advancing peace and security has been increasingly highlighted at the United Nations over the years, most notably through the landmark Security Council Resolution 2250. Adopted in 2015, Resolution 2250 is the first Security Council resolution to emphasize the key role of youth as agents of change to promote and sustain international peace and security. 1 month ago, at the General Assembly, the Secretary-General unveiled his Youth 2030 strategy. The strategy makes a direct link to the impact that young people can have on the Sustainable Development Goals. And with respect to the peace and security pillar, the strategy encourages everyone to perceive and support young people as indispensable catalysts for peace. The Security Council has also, as recently as this July, and through Resolution 2430, noted the importance of youth in the Cyprus context by recognizing the work of the Bicommunal Technical Committee on Education and calling on both sides to facilitate intercommunal youth contacts. Such contact is vital if we aspire to a shared vision and a joint future for this island. Regular contact between the two communities in the past decades continues to be limited. Recent generations have largely grown up separately, as two solitudes. As the UN in Cyprus, through our daily work, UNFICYP strives to play a role in supporting the future custodians and leaders of this beautiful island. By convening and connecting youth organizations, we help to replicate good practice beyond Nicosia, where the Association for Historical Dialogue and Research, Home for Cooperation, Cans for Kids, Cyprus Women Can, Cyclists Across Barriers, and many others that I have no time to mention, inspire young people. We also note that Nicosia has been nominated for the prestigious European Youth Capital Award, and we wish the best of luck to the Greater Nicosia 2021 European Youth Capital Initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, the impact of youth on peace has been proven the world over in many contexts. Cyprus is no exception. In addition to those youth organizations that I've already mentioned, Cyprus Model UN hosts an annual conference inviting guests from far afield, and the work of the Cyprus Friendship Program has produced many inspirational and exceptional youth leaders here in Cyprus. For example, Burak Duluay of the organization Cyprus INO was recently nominated for a 2-year stint as one of the United Nations' 17 youth envoys around the world for his role in promoting innovation and entrepreneurship with young people on both sides of the divide, working together with the Greek Cypriot co-founder of Cyprus INO, Stephen Stavro. This evening, amongst us in the crowd, we also have some shining stars. I'm pleased to point out the presence of the young independent filmmakers, Mr. Yannis Bekiaris, Mr. Dimitrios Ikonomou, Mr. Stavros Charalambous, and Mr. Alexis Mavros, whose virtual reality film about the buffer zone made it all the way to the Cannes Film Festival. And directly after I speak, and I promise that I won't speak too much longer, you will hear from 2 inspirational young Cypriot women, Umay Kute and Natalie Christopher. Please allow me to talk just a little bit about these two outstanding young women, Umay and Natalie. First of all, Umay. Born in Nicosia, Umay, a graduate in fine arts, has been passionately involved in using the arts as a medium to promote reunification, especially among Cypriot youth. She's at the forefront of efforts in youth empowerment across the island through her own initiatives, as well as her participation in intercommunal art projects, teaching, and mentoring. In addition to working directly on bringing Old Town Nicosia back to life, Umay's extraordinary design sensibility is stamped upon murals in Famagusta and Dorinia. Natalie has a similarly impressive set of accomplishments for someone so young. An astrophysicist, no less, by training, Natalie is one of the founders of Cyprus Girls Can, an organization that holds sporting events for women and girls across the island and supports building people-to-people contacts between the communities in Cyprus. Natalie has also recently joined the discussions of an island-wide movement that's intending to be the Cypriot antenna of the Mediterranean Women's Mediation Network. Cyprus is truly fortunate to have such young talent that is, in addition to being talented, committed to shaping a more positive future for this island and to doing it together. Dear colleagues, friends, esteemed guests, let me close with this quote. Youth is the first victim of war, but also the first fruit of peace. We should nurture this fruit here on the island and beyond. And I want to thank you all sincerely for being here. Thank you.
Elizabeth Speha, the head of UNFICYP and the special representative of the UN Secretary-General, talking at a reception to mark UN Day in Nicosia last week. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.